rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, we have had some American losses in this Operation Epic Fury. And as sad as it is, and yes, we should be, obviously praying for their souls and praying for their families to get through this rough and difficult time. But realistically, let's be honest, an operation like this, and whenever you go into battle, there is always the possibility that you will be either harmed or maimed or killed. It happens. And that's one of the drawbacks of any kind of battle or fight or anything along those lines. It's always has been that way since the beginning of time, and will continue to be that way for the rest of all known humanity. All of that being said, operations are continuing, and those operations, of course, are, they're continuing, and we can pray for the safety of all of our service members in the fight. Okay, so I've got a bunch of updates in terms of things that have developed out of Operation Epic Fury. There are some things that have happened in the area, so the vast majority of today's show or tonight's show is going to be about a bunch of Iran stuff as operations continue. We will get to all of that in just a minute, but first we need to take care of some business. Business number one being, of course, the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight is going to be done by none other than our beloved, and may he rest in peace, Buddy Weiser. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Sir Buddy as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
And, of course, a long-time Whiskey Warrior, one of the first Whiskey Warrior P1s. May he rest in peace, Buddy Weiser. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email address. Send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation. Well, tonight's headline sponsor, and this is kind of, I don't know if we want to call it fortuitous, fortunate, whatever it is, but tonight's headline sponsor is theflagshirt.com, and in honor of another of our Whiskey Warrior P1's fast passing, I am wearing the Fat Paws favorite shirt. We call it the Fat Paws here on the show. It is the We the People Liberty Bell. Here, let me see if I can stand up high enough for you to see it. There's the Liberty Bell right here. And it's on this shoulder. And then down further, it has the Lincoln Memorial statue on it, but this one is the Fat Paws. This is for the other Whiskey Warrior member. May he rest in peace. And this was one of his favorite shirts. And anyway, he got his, just like I got mine, at theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt.com is where you can peruse all of the men's, women's, kids made in the USA, and of course the featured America's 250th anniversary collection. So go and check them out at theflagshirt.com. That's right, theflagshirt.com, and go and check it out. And if you go and order $75 or more of their product, you can pick up free shipping. That's always the case. You order $75 or more of their product, and believe me, you're going to go through it. If you're anything like me, you go through and you go, hey, you know what? I'm going to pick up all of this stuff. Yeah, trust me, I could spend a lot of money there. I personally like their men's cotton polos, which is the Fat Paws is one of them. So you can go and check it out. Check out all of their wonderful styles. Pick up something for America's 250th anniversary. Trust me, 250 years doesn't come along very often, and it will never come again. The next one will be probably 300. So, go and check out all of their offerings at theflagshirt.com. But I know not everybody can get $75 or more of product for whatever the reason is. And so I'm going to help you out. If you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you will be presented with a coupon code. And once you are presented with that coupon code, copy and paste that promo code into the checkout or into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com. And you will be given $5 off your order on American Perspective. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online. Copy and paste the coupon code that you're presented with in the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com, and you will receive $5 off your order. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right, folks. Well, I was going to start the show originally with the fact that we only had, realistically, that there were only 3 casualties, but now our death toll has risen to 6 troops. 6 total troops so far in the death toll. And the Pentagon announced that the remains of 2 of the military members, the first ones, have been recovered. U.S. forces recently recovered the remains of 2 previously unaccounted for service members from a facility that was struck during Iran's initial attack into the region, according to the CENTCOM, that's the U.S. Central Command, statement on X. Major combat operations continue. The identities of the fallen are being withheld until 24 hours after next of kin. After next of kin notification. So far, there's been 18 that have been seriously wounded, according to a CENTCOM spokesperson. They also, by the way, have destroyed, according to a report, have destroyed all Iranian ships that are in the Gulf of Oman. So the Iranian Navy is no more in the ones that were stationed in the Gulf of Oman. And they're gone. So that is not surprising, to be honest with you, but definitely a amazing event. So yeah. So now the Iranian Navy, or at least some of them, are now newly formed reefs and no longer ships. But anyway, so we're attacking them. We're making some serious serious headway in all of this. And realistically, even with the loss of the additional service members, Trump has pretty much said that he's vowed for vengeance on all and any and all U.S. military deaths toward this. Now, one thing that is unfortunate in these kinds of circumstances, especially when you're working in an area where there is, a lot of activity. Now, there's a lot of nation states in this space. Keep in mind, Iran is actually standing on its own now, realistically. There are no local or close by Arab states that are interested in helping them out. But unfortunately, when you're operating in a theater that is very tight with a bunch of different entities all trying to work together, there are some incidences of friendly fire. And as of right now, the stat of that we're aware of is that the Kuwaitis have mistakenly shot down 3 U.S. F-15s, and Qatar has it was just announced, unfortunately hit a couple of Israeli jets as a quote-unquote friendly fire incident. And to be honest with you, I mean, Iran being Iran, went and bombed all of its neighbors right out the get-go once the U.S. and Israel forces struck them, and so Iran just started firing back. Now, granted, they were aiming, in some cases, they were aiming at U.S. military installations, but still, it violated airspace of their Arab neighbors, and so they are, they're standing alone. They have nobody. And as everybody does know, the U.S. decapitated the Iranian leadership as they ate breakfast. So apparently they are all getting together. And when Trump confirmed Khamenei's death in a post on Truth Social on Saturday, hours after he announced the commencement of Operation Epic Fury, Brett Baer told America's Newsroom co-host Bill Hemmer and Dana Perino that Trump was pleased with the progress that they have done so far. But Baer was like, well, when they met, meaning the Iranians, they met for breakfast. They assumed that it was good for a lot of reasons. Baer pointed out that, number one, they didn't think we knew, but you never attack in the morning, having to deal with the winds and the sun of a lot of things. It was amazing that we knew everything that we knew. And he said that there is a plan. That's one of the things that the leftist lunatics of the left and Democrats have been saying is, is there an end game? Is there an end game? And, well, yeah. There is an end game, I promise you. It's already been figured out. Now, apparently 49 leaders were taken out in that initial bombing. And they essentially, obviously the purpose was to get rid of the Iranian leadership. That was the whole kit and caboodle there. And by the way, we've actually heard reports now that have said that the CIA, probably, NSA, probably, and other military intelligence cooperation, other intelligence organization cooperation, had been tracking them, meaning Khamenei and the rest of the leadership, for weeks prior to this. So this wasn't just a, hey, we're going to see if we can try and hit something. No. This This was definitely planned. This was definitely planned, and it was watched. And they essentially knew what was going to happen throughout all of this scenario. And so, overall, Trump is calling the operation that it is being projected to last 4 to 5 weeks. However, in terms of the progress, he is basically saying that the United States is ahead of the initial schedule that they put in. Now, the president has also said that the operation could continue for longer than 5 weeks if it is required. And I think some of that, honestly, is going to be dependent upon the war powers vote that is going to be coming in the House of Representatives and the Senate, because the Democrats are definitely calling all of this. Definitely they're calling for a vote to try and rein in, or at least try and hem in, what President Trump is trying to do. Now, we talked about the War Powers Act last episode. And under the War Powers Act, Trump does have 60 days, which is roughly 8 weeks, give or take. 60 days that he can operate without congressional approval in accordance with Title 50, Section 15, I can't remember. It's chapter 33. So he's got 60 days of active operations, and then the act provides him an additional 30 days to withdraw any military within that kind of space. So technically it's 90 days in total, but it's broken out in the act as a 60-30 split. So he does have enough time within there, I think, especially if they complete their objectives early, to get in and get out without having congressional approval. Now, for those of you who are on the Democrat side and sit there and think, hey, this is illegal, this is unconstitutional. No, actually, it isn't. And up until the point of the War Powers Act of 1973, there actually were no categorization of what the president could or could not do. See, Congress has the ability to declare war, but Congress has not declared war since World War II. In fact, Congress has only declared war 5 times in our history. Okay? And so, all I'm saying is that this is utterly crazy that these Democrats are attempting to try and curb Donald Trump's power as commander-in-chief as quick as what they are. Now, keep in mind, I think this caught a lot of people who were not part of the quote-unquote Gang of 8, meaning the 8 Congress members who were and are supposed to be briefed whenever this stuff happens. That being said, it's going to be sort of interesting to watch because, according to Speaker Johnson, that vote in the House of Representatives is going to come this week. And, well, it's going to be very interesting to see how far this goes. What can get accomplished, and what the situation is going to be after that vote comes in. Now, there's been some question with regards to what's going on over in Iran as to whether or not the preemptive strike, what appears to have been a preemptive strike, was lawful. Because one of the things that the War Powers Act does entail is that, hey, if America is threatened, if there is an imminent threat to America that this is something that would require, if you have an imminent threat, this is something that would require, congressional approval moving forward. And the fact of the matter is that we've now learned that Iran likely was planning a preemptive strike with their ballistic missiles on a lot of our bases. So keep in mind the secondary attack that came after our attack across the Middle East and all of our bases with those ballistic missiles. That was highly likely to have already been in the works and in the planning on the Iranians' side. Now, I'm just going to say this conflict with the Iranians, this conflict has been raging since the Ayatollah took power back in the 1970s. We haven't really had any kind of decisive action since then against the Iranians. I know people are saying, aha, Obama, he organized this, this treaty and tried to get him to not go after nuclear weapons, and Trump pulled out and blah, blah, blah. No, you guys don't, I don't think anybody really fully grasps the fact that Iran has been a center for terrorism throughout the world, monetarily, training other organizations, training people like Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. They've been funding Hamas, and thanks to Joe Biden sending $6 billion back to Iran, we're the premier monetary banker for the October 7th attack, the most horrific attack on Israel since the Holocaust. So, folks, Iran has been essentially, quote unquote, at war with the U.S. for almost 50 years. For almost 50 years. And I really don't understand why anybody is sitting here thinking that we even had them hemmed in, because we didn't. We never did. I mean, yes, while we were over in Afghanistan, they were generally fairly quiet. But believe me, they were funding things. They were doing things on the backside. They were doing things in the background. It's been shown that Iran has been using backdoor banking and backdoor deals with other totalitarian regimes and everything else to sell their oil and to gain all of this money, to be able to continue to fund their, I think they use the term caliphate, but their caliphate against the Americans and the Western powers. They were looking to get rid of Israel. Believe me, if they had achieved nuclear power, Israel would have immediately been attacked. Even if they only got one, they would have used it almost immediately. And then Israel would have had no other choice but to utilize theirs. And, let's just say that the Middle East would have been no more. So to sit here as a leftist lunatic, to sit here and say, oh, no, this was an unprovoked attack. As I talked to you last episode, these people, they literally understand one thing and one thing only, and that is superior firepower. Period. There is nothing else. They are the bully in the schoolyard that if you continue to pay them money or you continue to appease them, they will continue to look at you as a target, as a something to be despised. And Donald Trump knows this. And Donald Trump stood up and basically said, you know what? Even though it's unpopular, I'm going to do the right thing. And that's been reflected in the polls. We've had some polls that have come out recently where the majority of the Americans polled. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying this poll is accurate. In fact, far from it. But what I am demonstrating is that this is not a very popular thing overall. It's not like an 80-20 kind of thing. All right. And so I don't know where the leftists, I mean, I understand where the leftists like AOC and Rashida Tlaib, and which, by the way, Rashida Tlaib, I saw a fantastic meme. She was standing there with an image of the Ayatollah behind her. And the meme basically said that, you know, we don't understand why Democrats are so pissed off at this attack on Iran. I mean, we just gave them a bunch of voters for them to vote Democrat. It's a joke on the dead voters that, you know, dead voters vote Democrat. Anyway. So all of this basically boils down to one thing and one thing only. And I'll be honest with you, this is, this is something I hate to even think that this is the case, but realistically, this is a race to the finish line. This is a race. We need to get this accomplished, and we need to get it done before the politicians in Congress go and tie the president's hands. For those of us that are old enough to at least have read and understood the history of what happened in both Korea and Vietnam, the reason why both of those wars were drug on like they were was because of the fact the politicians got involved. See, what the politicians should do, what Congress should do in this instance, is get the hell out of the way. Go ahead and fund it. And stay out of the way. See, this is something that so many people don't seem to understand when it comes to war. War is a very ugly business. It's not popular. People, the American people in particular, don't like to see their men and women come home in boxes. They don't like to see their men and women come home maimed and scarred and limbs blown off and things of that type of thing that's going on. But what does need to happen is the politicians need to get out of the way. And I'll be honest with you, even the president needs to define specific objectives. And those specific objectives should be handed over to the generals and the admirals and the military leadership and said, go do this thing. And let them do their jobs. Let them annihilate. Let them be the war fighters that they are supposed to be. Forget this politicking crap and everything else. Look, war is, coin the phrase, war is hell. But it sometimes is necessary. It is a necessary evil in order to contain and in some cases obliterate evil. And that's, if America is going to be the world's police, that's where we should be. That's where America should be. Is we should be the ones who talk softly and carry a big stick. we should be the ones who mete out justice when it is needed and necessary, like in this case. And assuming, because again, it's kind of unconfirmed, but assuming that Iran was going to do a preemptive strike against our forces in the Middle East, well, that is all the provocation that is necessary. That is all the provocation that is necessary. And unfortunately, weak-minded individuals, weak politicians who stand there and think that you can negotiate with these terrorists, with these evil invaders. Folks, for those of you that don't even understand the history, prior to the Ayatollahs coming to power in Iran, Iran was on its way. You know, the Iranian people are not technically Islamists. The Iranian people were known as Persians. And the Persian people in Iran, prior to the Ayatollahs coming to power and the Islamic State coming to power in Iran, they were on their way becoming a prosperous Middle Eastern country. There are images, you can search for them on the internet. There are images of their women in the 1970s, the 60s and 70s, ahead of time, looking very much like any other United States or Western civilization. Their women were wearing bikinis and, you know, laying on sandy beaches and all kinds of different things. The women, even today, the women back then were allowed to go and get PhDs. They were allowed to go to school. They weren't the typical, what you would consider to be the typical Islamic country like what you've seen in places under the Taliban, like in Afghanistan. There are Islamic religious countries over there that do not subscribe to the Islamist extremism. But Iran was on its way to being a great power in the region. And then the Ayatollahs came to power, and the Islamic State of Iran was born. And they cloistered their people. They enslaved their people. Now, there have been revolutions over the course of the last 47 years. Since they came to power, there have been revolutions. One of them I played for you, the regret that Obama had. The regret that Obama had, where he was like, hey, you know, that green revolution that happened over there, you know, I should have, that may have been a mistake. I should have supported it. You think? See, folks, for many, many years, decades even, we have been attempting continuously to try and bring peace to the Middle East. Donald Trump in his first term came close with the Abraham Accords. He almost had it. Almost. And it was the closest that anyone has ever come to having peace in that region between the Israelis, the Saudis, the UAE, Egypt, Oman, Qatar, all of them. This is a historic and defining moment because I think Trump is setting out to do what he could not do diplomatically under the Abraham Accords. And there are signs that this very well could be successful. Sign number one is the fact that Iran actually struck its neighbors, and that all of the neighbors, including the Saudis, who have been protecting Iran from the West from us, the U.S. in particular, in negotiations. See, the Saudis have been keeping Iran, trying to like say, oh, we'll keep them on a short leash. It's okay. We got it. We got it. You guys don't need to get involved here. We got it. And now the Saudis are basically saying, hey, you know what? You guys violated our airspace, Iran. You attacked us. It's done and over with. We're going to let the U.S. and anybody else use our space, do whatever they have to in order to get rid of you. But it's not just the Saudis. It's not just the UAE, which both of those have been relatively on our side. I'm not going to say 100% because we got a lot of questions with regards to 9/11. But that being said, and yes, they're never going to live that down as far as I'm concerned. Even Qatar is another one of those places, but at least Qatar is not doing it. They're monetarily helping in often cases, but they're not overtly training people and everything else. Now, all of that being said, now all of a sudden, for the very first time in history, we have multiple Middle Eastern countries that are now turned on Iran, and Iran literally has no place to go. Even its partners, China and Russia, they're being awfully quiet right now. And while that might be concerning to some people, that actually is interesting because what is happening in Iran right at this moment, and this is the other part of this entire situation, that is, it should scare the bejesus out of anybody. If the Democrats get what they want, which is to stop America from attacking Iran, if the Democrats get what they want, then what that's going to do is that's going to undermine President Trump, and that's going to undermine the United States' stance in the world as, again, reasserting itself as the world's superpower. China and Russia, and you don't think North Korea is looking at this and going, oh, whoa. Oh, this is a bit of a problem. See, Iran has been backdooring oil and sending oil to both Russia and China, and perhaps even North Korea. They've been the axis of, we'll call it the axis of evil, although that terminology hasn't been used since after World War II. But folks, these people, they're nothing for us to sit here and just allow them, okay, to survive right now. We've been playing with them. We've been toying with them. Different administrations have tried to appease them, tried to give them what they want, tried to get concessions, so on and so forth. None of it has worked in 50 damn years. Nearly 50 years. And so now that we have a position, we are in a position where not only all of the Arab nations are now turned against Iran, we have a very small window of opportunity here to bring down a large portion of Islamic terrorism support structure. To get rid of all of them. And by get rid of, I mean get rid of the ones that are essentially get rid of all the ones that are supporting terrorism throughout the world. Let me explain something to you. There's another bit of a surprise. See, if you have been involved in any kind of even a surface level understanding of what's going on in the Middle East over the last decades. Israel had been surrounded, essentially, by Hamas out of the Gaza Strip and Hezbollah out of the north. And the Houthis down in the Yemen. All three Iranian-sponsored terror groups have been harassing Israel for years, for decades even. And now, based on this report in the National Pulse, Lebanon, which has been sort of harboring Hezbollah for years, has now grown some cojones. So Lebanon's Prime Minister, Nawaf Salam, has announced, quote, the immediate ban of all Hezbollah security and military activities and considering them illegal. Salam is now demanding that Hezbollah, which is another, again, one of the three, is Iranian-backed Islamic terror groups, is now demanding that the Hezbollah lay down its arms and turn themselves over to Lebanese government forces. This demand comes after elements of Hezbollah launched unsuccessful rocket attacks against Israel on Sunday evening, which appear to have been intercepted by a possible Iron Beam, which is a directed energy air defense system technology. An additional suicide drone launched by Hezbollah appears to have struck the Royal Air Force Base at Akroiti, I think that's how it's pronounced, on the island of Cyprus. Subsequently, Israel's decapitation strikes against Hezbollah positions in Lebanon resulted in a new round of significant deaths among the Islamist terror group's commanders, including its political leader in the Lebanese parliament, Mohammed Rad. Folks, this isn't a simple push of America or U.S. forces and Israeli forces against Iran. This is an opportunity that I believe the Middle East has finally come to the conclusion that they need to eradicate themselves of these Islamic extremists. We are on the cusp of the possibility of a historic change in power in the Middle East over all of this. I don't understand where the left sits here and is saying, hey, you know what? We really gotta keep Trump from doing all of this stuff. Folks, this is the first time in my far back recollection. Not saying that I was, a 10-year-old child paying attention to Middle East politics, because I certainly wasn't. But I do recall way back in the old days, it's funny to say that, but way back in the old days, where there was a lot of unrest over in the Middle East. A lot of unrest. Afghanistan, etc. So on and so forth. Folks, this is a historic occasion. This should not be stopped. They should continue. They should be allowed to continue until this is over with. Now, towards that end, keep in mind, the State Department has issued a warning. They are warning Americans to immediately leave most of the Middle East nations. The State Department said that Americans need to evacuate due to serious safety risks. Now, keep in mind, this is going to continue for quite some time. Now, this announcement came out today, March 2nd, and it urged any Americans currently in more than a dozen Middle East nations and regions to leave immediately due to serious safety risks. Americans in Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Israel, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, the United Arab Emirates, and Yemen should immediately depart through any available commercial transportation, the U.S. State Department said in a travel security fact sheet, updated as of 4 p.m. Eastern today. This is getting serious. And as it should be. I mean, this is a very serious situation. And I don't think, I honestly don't believe that the left and the Democrats seem to understand how much of a historic potential opportunity that we have here. So, yeah. I certainly hope and pray that these people in those nations, that the Americans in those nations get out quickly. Well, one of the things that is on everybody's mind, and it has been every single time, I mean, ever since we've had issues in, Korea and Vietnam, those are the two that are, or even Afghanistan, 20-year war in Afghanistan, which honestly really wasn't a 20-year war. We actually had, pretty good control over the pretty good control over the region until Biden. I said Obama, I meant Biden. That's okay. They're one and the same, it seems. But anyway, until Biden screwed it up. But anyway, one of the things that we need to understand, and that a lot of people have been saying, is like, hey, we don't want to get into forever wars. And Donald Trump doesn't want to be in a forever war either. Donald Trump is not looking for a forever war. Donald Trump is looking to apply and achieve specific objectives, and that those objectives are to be accomplished as quickly and as safely as possible. Well, our old buddy, Scott Jennings, yeah, he has one of his Scott Jennings truth bombs to pass on to the American people and the leftist lunatics on CNN. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
It is going to have some impact on the economy of China, because that's where they get their oil, from Iran. And what we did in Venezuela, what we did in China, or what we did in Iran has as much to do with China, I think, as anything. I also want to say, may God rest the souls of those troops. But they died in a noble cause. And as Buddy said, 47 years, Americans are dead, the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. I totally disagree with you about the threat not being imminent. I spoke to very senior administration officials yesterday. They believe that the Iranian regime was about to fire ballistic missiles, not at the United States, but into U.S. military bases and civilian targets. They were going to attack Israel. They are already attacking other Gulf states. You
can't make the case back then. Apparatus has assessed that there was not an imminent threat.
I know. My guess is I've spoken to higher-ranking officials than you. On the uranium enrichment, the United States offered them free, unlimited, lifetime, civilian-grade nuclear fuel. They said no. They had given us the runaround about their intentions on enriching uranium for military purposes. How long do you want to wait? Death to America? Death to Israel? How long do you want to wait? We waited 47 years. We have crossed every red line. Every president says they want to do something about it. Only Donald Trump had the guts to do it. You said you're not shedding any tears for the regime, but you appear just not to like Donald Trump enough to be mad about it. This is a good thing.
He's the guy who's going to bring peace and not start wars.
Yeah, and he is bringing peace. Iran has been at war with us for 47 years. The central pillar of the regime is death to America. The other pillar is death to Israel, who is our ally. They have been at war with us. They have been killing American personnel and American soldiers for nearly 5 decades. This is not an attempt to start a war. This is an attempt to prevent further conflict. This is an attempt to get the largest state sponsor of terror off the field. This is an attempt to stabilize the Middle East. I don't view this, Ashley, as starting a war as much as ending the people who are the preeminent terror threat in the world. They're at war with everybody. They're at war with us, and they're at war with Western civilization.
This is a serious question, because we have seen regimes fall and countries not be stabilized. And so what's next?
Well, gosh, I don't know. I mean, what if we leave a country that for the next 47 years kills Americans, kills American personnel, funds terror around the world? That's what we have now. That's what we couldn't have it any worse now. What comes next?
We couldn't.
We actually don't know.
We don't know, actually.
That the Iranian people rise up and take control of their country.
We don't know.
Absolutely. It is up to the Iranian people to make that decision.
And that's the key. Now, the clip is a little shorter, but you need to, or shortened here, but you need to understand this precursor, the precursor to this, folks, was pretty simple. The precursor to this was the fact that they had reportedly killed 30,000 of their own people who were essentially rising up in a rebellion in Iran. See, this is, well, again, like I said, this is the opportunity. And are we sure that it's going to come out on the far end? Well, no. I mean, we obviously thought that, Iraq under Saddam, was going to be better, but it didn't. It didn't go anywhere. And we installed that guy. We had installed him. And he ended up turning out to be a really bad person. So I don't think Donald Trump is looking necessarily to install somebody, but he is definitely looking for the Iranian people to basically say, we've had enough. We now have essentially a very large distraction. Okay? A very large distraction going on right now, and this is the time that the Iranian people have to basically take back their country from the Islamic totalitarians. That's essentially what they have. And this is exactly what's going on. It is up to the Iranian people. Just like it was up to the Afghanistanis and the Iraqi people when we went in and did what we did. See, freedom is only one step. Taking over is not something that the Americans want. It's not something that the United States should be doing anyway. We should be helping these people to help set up potentially Western style civilized cultures over there. And I'm not talking about setting them up in our image. But let's face it, we are the premier country on the planet. So why shouldn't we try to set up certain people over there, certain countries over there correctly? All right. Time flies when you're having fun. Let me go ahead and just do this one quick spot, and then I'll finish with one thing that happened in Austin, Texas that I think everybody needs to know about. Folks, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit is available today with a limited number of units. In each unit, you're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All of these coffees are Single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting the Gold Spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You're also receiving a frother that is strong enough not only to stir up your coffee, but also your mother-in-law's opinions. You'll also be receiving a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775 Coffee. That's the numbers 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they are gone. 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they disappear. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. That's 1775coffee.com/studio. Grab your starter kit today. All right. Folks, we need to be vigilant. The FBI has issued a warning to the American people, and they are taking care to look out for sleeper cells that have been here in the United States. You need to be vigilant. Now, what happened in Austin? Austin, Texas had a mass shooter who has been here since the Clinton administration and became a citizen under Obama. Folks, under Obama, despite the fact that he has been on the wrong side of the law quite often. Now, this is being looked at as a potential terror attack. All right? Now, supposedly, this gentleman, who is a Senegalese national, he arrived in America March 13 in 2000 on a B-2 tourist visa during the Clinton administration. A source familiar with his immigration history told the New York Post on Sunday. He killed, so far, I don't know if anybody has died under this, but 2 people have been killed, wounded 14. It was a rampage outside a Texas bar early on Sunday. He then became a lawful permanent resident on a IR-6 visa in June of 2006 when he married a U.S. citizen, according to a source. Now, folks, I'm just going to tell you right now, whenever we have unrest in the Middle East like this, you need to keep your head on a swivel. We need to be looking around, be aware of your surroundings, trying to avoid areas where you can get trapped. Make sure that, and you should be doing this anyway, but make sure when you go into a restaurant or a place of business that you are aware of where the exits are. Make sure that you try to discern at least 2, if not more, exit strategies. If something does go down, you need to go and get out. Okay? This is something that is going to be going on here. I mean, don't think that we don't have sleeper cells from Iran here in our country. I can almost guarantee you they are here. They are here, and we need to pay attention. We need to be aware of what's going on. If you normally don't carry but have the ability to carry, start carrying again. Okay? I'm just saying. We need to be vigilant because it's these kinds of activities that even though they're happening far, far away, they very well could impact here at home. We have absolutely no idea who got let in under the Biden administration the last 4 years. 0. Zilch. None. And even though our Department of Homeland Security under Tom Homan and our our ICE agents under Tom Homan have done a fantastic job, they may not have gotten everybody. And so we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention as to what's going on. These people are in it for the long game. Keep your heads on a swivel. And it's unfortunate that something like this does happen here in the United States, but We can't afford to be, we cannot sit here and think that we're going to be the isolationists anymore. We can't. Okay? We can't. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com. Get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you follow the search up and follow the American Perspective channel by hitting that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit me those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or in the case of 3 Chevy, the thumb sideways across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening. Be safe out there. Pray for those fallen. Pray for those souls who are still in the fighting. Good night, everybody.